after years of collaborating with black people and building huge followings and platforms, just Pearly things and no jumpers, Adam 22 gets exposed as being racist by Jason Black of the platform The Business.
America being one. That was when more immigration happened and the culture, we sort of lost the culture.
Yeah, because the lesson of World War II, based on the horrors of the Holocaust, is like, this is what happens when nationalism goes awry. This is what happens when nationalism goes too far.
But your argument was the Holocaust was not special and all countries have done that.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
so you're saying, why is the Holocaust special?
Yeah, basically.
Oh. Okay, what do you mean, basically?
Well, yeah, I mean, because of course, we're getting into the details of it, but yeah, that's the gist.
Yeah, I mean, but you kind of deny it happened.
I denied some of the parts of it.
You deny parts of it don't seem realistic to you. You think they were embellished upon.
I think they're embellished, yeah.
The same way. This sounds, oh gosh.
Oh boy.
They're gonna be in trouble. This sounds similar to the slavery stuff too, because that's literally the founder of, or the guy who made Roots said, I wanted a myth for my people to live by. So they often, but that's what they do, is they embellish, and I'm not trying to say it wasn't horrible, it was.
Right.
But they want to make it like more horrible so that they can control people.
So what Pearl is saying is that history of slavery in the Holocaust has been exaggerated, when in fact the horrors of slavery has been extremely watered down. This just shows how racist she is. People like her don't mind working with black people, so as long as they are in control and own everything in the end, they'll make much more money than their black counterparts, and their black counterparts won't own any copyright, nothing, won't make another penny off of any of the reposts. So she's fine with that.
She kept saying it. They want to make it more horrible, about it. I want to talk about it. The word is slavery. So she's fully aware of what she's doing. She called herself, oh, I know they're going to get me for this, but you see, she's been sitting on this so long, sitting around your ignorant boot-licking asses, while you've been sitting here showing her and reinforcing to her every negative stereotype and belief she had. Because she's like, they can't even see the snake that I am. They're so desperate to get next to me that they're willing to accept this serpent that is so obviously sitting in front of them. So she just can't sit on it anymore. She's been in your presence of your deficient brain dead asses so long, she can't even pretend that she likes you anymore. At some point, I told y'all, like Laura Schlesinger and the others, when people said, Jason, why is it that Dr. Laura Schlesinger, with all that millions of dollars and the pull that she had and the contracts and everything else, why did she sit up here and have to demand and say, nigga, nigga, nigga? Because that's what she really wanted to say. And she spent so many years being denied it. And being white is supposed to be, as Malcolm X said, white is supposed to mean free. It means I do what I want. And if I cannot call you nigga to your face, if I cannot deny slavery, if I cannot brutalize you and deny your humanity, then obviously I'm not in charge. You are. Hello there, Adam from No Jumper. Now, folks, I could actually play several clips from this program that Adam and No Jumper did with Richard Spencer after all these years talking to black folks about, quote, black culture. And then he does this wild spin out of nowhere and wants to talk to Richard Spencer. So a lot of folks there have taken issue with it. Some of his former co-hosts have taken issue with it. But I submit to you that he was showing these tendencies when you got these white dudes, a white fellow who does not come from street culture whatsoever. He comes from skater boy, stoner culture. But he knows that there's a certain contingent of black folk who are looking for a white person to give them approval no matter what. No matter what. So he brings on Richard Spencer and some guy named, blue-haired fella named Destiny. He calls it a debate. Here's the problem. It ain't a debate. There was no debate. No, I'm not exaggerating. There was no debate. You just had two white men sitting there agreeing with each other the whole time. And I know they were because I counted it. You can go through this interview. They say the exact words, I agree with you, 5 times. And they say the words, I agree, over 20 times. more than 20 times they said the words "I agree," and 5 times they said the specific phrase "I agree with you."
Of what?
Now, this is the white dude that Adam brought on allegedly to debate Richard. And yet he comes out sounding more alt-right than Richard. This is the guy that Adam chose. Adam chose this guy. Could have chosen somebody black. Could have chosen an Umar Johnson. Could have chosen somebody who would be actually qualified to do this. He chooses a white fella, and then amazingly enough, what do you know? It's a white dude who's sitting there agreeing with Richard and expressing Richard's talking points. That's the guy that Adam chose to quote unquote debate. But wait a minute now, you notice I haven't skipped forward or anything. Notice it keeps going.
They feel. I think it might not very well be rational, and you can shove statistics down their throat, but it's an expression of how they feel, and it might even be a certain kind of fantasy element to it as well, in the sense that they do feel out of place and oppressed and not making it or something. It also expresses a certain kind of fantasy of, like, to make a conflict that is invisible in a way visible.
Yeah, that's what I was saying before. It feels good to have the patriarchy to fight against, or to have cops to fight against, because you get this, because there is a lot of frustration in general in life. I think that's probably part of life.
It feels good to have the patriarchy or cops to fight against. This is the guy who was supposed to be debating Richard Spencer. I could play Richard Spencer's clips and quotes in here, but I thought it more interesting to play for you all allegedly the guy who was there, quote unquote, to debate Richard Spencer. So far, y'all ain't hearing very much disagreement or debate so far now, are you? Not a whole lot of debate going on. Now, is that accidental? I wonder if Destiny is done with that. And yes, I know Destiny was on Pearly Things program. So yeah, these lines of connection aren't very far apart. But Jason was reaching all this time. I wonder if Destiny keeps going in this vein. I wonder.
Treating the things a bit differently.
Sure.
But the problem is that people take it a little bit too far. And instead of saying, like, well, hold on, I think that there needs to be a special, unique place for black people to talk about their place in the U.S. and the history in the U.S. That evolved into fuck white people. They can't talk about anything related to whiteness. And now we're only going to talk about black issues. And if you even dare challenge that, you're racist. Like that evolution.
Which one of these guys is the alt-right again? Because that's not Richard Spencer. Richard Spencer's the other guy with the black jacket. But by the way, this is the dude that Pearly Things had on. This is the dude that Adam brought on here ostensibly to debate Richard Spencer. And yet, yeah, Richard Spencer doesn't even need to say anything. So I could play for you Richard Spencer's quotes during the program. I could play that for you, but I found it much more interesting to play the guy he was supposed to be debating. When I tell you there was no debate. There wasn't a debate. That's the problem. Jason, are you still loading up more? How much did you? Oh, I got plenty more for you if you really just want it.
It's a little bit strange, you know?
I get what you're saying, and I'm being sympathetic towards it. I have many of the same criticisms. One of the criticisms that I do agree with that you hear from the left is, they'll show some image of some, fatso screaming white pride or yelling at someone, and they'll be like, this is the white supremacist, And then there's also that other kind of question of, like, what are you actually standing for? What do you want?
Yeah.
I think that was a major question, the why question about the alt-right and why it failed and is kind of part of the past now. Is because it couldn't answer. There was no like actual spiritual core to what whiteness is.
Which
I think that's
so many
true.
movements have that issue. Remember Occupy Wall Street?
Yes.
What the fuck did they want? That was a huge fervor, and it came and it went, and like, what the fuck did you guys want? Or BLM and the riots and the police. Like, what did you guys want? To abolish policing? They tried that as a place. It didn't work. Like, what did you guys want? The alt-right.
Well, you notice that he keeps coming back. This is the guy supposed to be debating Richard Spencer. This is the guy hanging out with Pearly Things. And what do you know? He's sitting there saying, thank you for giving me time to debate Richard Spencer. Now, let me tell you what I think about black folk. This wasn't a debate. This was 3 white men getting together to tell you about what they don't like about black folk. Now, I've let you listen to them, and I could play a lot more, but I'm only going to play one more thing. I'm going to play a audio clip here from Adam himself and something that Adam had to say. And for all of you Negro bootlicks who've been kissing his ass all these years, giving him a pass, ignoring what was so obviously, blatantly a low-key suspected white supremacist in your midst the whole damn time, falling for the yo-yo-yo. For all of you who've been on this program, been avid listeners, retweeting, reposting, why don't you go ahead and try to explain away this?
Blackness and shit, and it starts to feel like really segregated and weird. Like,
when I was reading through the Southern Poverty Law Center thing about Richard last night, which I can kind of assume probably hasn't been updated since like approximately 2016 because they left out some newer stuff, but I'm reading it and it's like almost every quote that I'm seeing from you talking about your white identity or whatever is something that sounds eerily familiar to something I've heard black people say in relatively mainstream circles in the last couple of years. So I don't know if maybe those statements seemed a little bit different in 2016, but viewed from today's light, it really, a large percentage of them didn't really seem all that shocking to me.
Now, people, for those of you who are new here and you don't really know who Jason Black is, among other things, I'm a documentary filmmaker. And I spoke to Richard Spencer in 2016, a few months after the Charlottesville race riots. I interviewed him. It took a lot of doing, but I got a face-to-face one-on-one interview with him. Richard Spencer is not somebody I talk about. He's somebody I have talked to for an extensive period of time. So I have no reason to sit up here and mischaracterize what it is. He was as advertised. If anything, he was very eager to make it clear that he was not being taken out of context anywhere that you've heard him say something. So when Adam sits up here and tells you, well, I was at the Southern Poverty Law Center website and I saw what they were quoting about you, and they must not have updated it in a few years because it didn't seem to be that incendiary to me. Well, you know what? This is what you can find on the Southern Poverty Law Center website.
So basically what Adam 22 and his 2 cohorts are saying is that systemic racism doesn't exist. Police brutality doesn't exist. The killing of black innocent men, unarmed black men, doesn't exist. To get the full interview, I'll leave a link in the description. I recommend you go see it. It's really good.